I'm joined now by Adefeko, Policy Advisor on Agriculture, Trade and Development Finance, who is also Chairman of the Industrial Group of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He's here with me to examine some of the top stories of the week. Great to have you on Business Week for the first time, Ade. I'm really, really excited.
Thank you for having me.
And just as well, one of your core areas is obviously the agribusiness value chain, the food value chain. We're talking about AGOA. So US President Biden has said Gabon, Niger, I think the Central African Republic and Uganda should exit the trade pact. I mean, what impact is this going to have, really?
What you need to look at is first, what is AGOA? African Growth and Opportunities Act. It was set up during the Clinton era, for, duty-free. But again, he who plays the piper dictates the tune. So you have access to about 54 countries before now. Of course, the continent of Africa has 54 countries now. So right now we have about 40 countries that have access. So Gabon and Niger, because of course, of what you call, the issue of the variety of elections,
the coup,
the coup. And of course, CAR, which is Central African Republic, and Gabon, and Uganda, because of human rights issues in court. Okay? But for me, I think it's unfortunate, but the effect of those countries in terms of contribution to exports on the agricultural side, apart from probably Uganda, will not be much. Okay? If you have the powerhouses in respective value chain areas like cocoa, cashew, sesame, cotton, and corn, soya, maybe not.
Yeah.
Uganda is a large food producer. But I think for me, Africa should try as much as possible to make sure that, we get our internal acts together, first and foremost. And we don't even do enough amongst ourselves.
In terms of trade.
So for me, this on a political front might not be too much good news for us as a continent, but in terms of contribution or effect on the overall agricultural value chain,
not much. I mean, the data says over 10 billion worth of African exports entered the US duty-free last year under the program. Now, the question is, could there have been a better way to deal with the challenges that the US government has? Because for these individual countries, access to markets
very important.
is key for them. So, I mean, could there have been a better way beyond kind of pulling the rug under the AGOA carpet, so to speak?
As you know, I'm a quasi-diplomat as well.
Right.
So what has happened is what you call diplomatic tattle. Okay? Somewhere along the line, give it a bit of time, the US government will most likely, rescind that decision. But as it is right now, it's what it is. And it's what we have to deal with. Okay. So for me, I think, yes, it was a better way of dealing with it, but they looked at it and said to themselves, economic blockade, in quote, is probably the right way to go.
I mean, it's not the first time the US will use, will sort of leverage economic tools in sort of political and geopolitics, so to speak. So we'll see how that pans out. The US, the UK actually is pioneering AI safety. They had this AI safety summit during this week. There were all sorts of promises made, looking at even our digital economy minister and comms minister was there. I mean, what is the significance of the summit? Does it show that we really do have to be careful with artificial intelligence and its trajectory?
Well, I very much concur, and that this is the first time in a very long time that this is coming to center stage. And it's a very good thing that's been hosted by the UK, even though you know that America ordinarily would have wanted to have where the giants of the tech companies are. But having it in UK, in Buckinghamshire, where we had close to 30, 40 people from across the world. Unfortunately, the Biden wasn't there, but of course, Rishi Sunak chaired it, and it was good for him for geopolitics. It was very important, and I think it was a good start for us to sit down and say to ourselves, let's look at the terms of engagement. Terms of engagement in respect to AI, artificial intelligence. Okay, what are the safeguards? What are the things we need to look out for? For example, the school of thought. Elon Musk, I think, it went a bit too extreme, talking about the fact that to replace jobs and all that. I don't think so, because the human interaction cannot be relegated to the back burner at all. There will be a lot of things that will still need human intervention. So I think it's early days yet, and don't forget this so-called AI we're talking about started around about in the
It's been around for decades.
late 80s, 90s. So people think that it's just a new thing. It's just that everything has what you call a renaissance,
Right.
a resurgence.
Yeah, and
yes,
evolution.
and evolution.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interestingly, Italian Prime Minister was the only G7 leader there.
Yes.
So, and the UK was quite careful in saying that its original ambitions to really push this thing have been kind of moderated. Do you see in a world in which there could be some sort of global agreement around AI regulation? Is there strong enough interest for that sort of regime?
I don't think we'll have something that strong along the lines of climate change.
Right.
You know, climate change will have different COPs.
Yes.
And COPs have been in series. And everybody has been saying, you know what, let's have a global agreement. I do not see that yet. I think it's early days yet, but it's not impossible.
Okay.
But I think for now, it's early days yet.
Yeah, interesting times for AI. Now, domestic, CBN is delivering FX forward, matured FX obligations. We're seeing banks like Citi saying that they got letters and they sent letters out to their customers. So is this a sign that the statements have been working? Or is it that the government is actually now pumping in the money that it says it has a line of sight to? What's going on here? Because we've also seen an appreciation in the value of the naira.
Yes.
Now, what I want to be sure of is whether that is being linked directly to the policy statements and policy moves. Is this a return of confidence? Help us make sense of it.
I think you should understand that, you see, the market works with moods and sentiments.
Okay, so what mood are we in?
So you were speaking to the line of sight, which was, I think, the statement made by the coordinating minister of the economy at the NESG. And I think that was a good step. And you know that foreign exchange is under the remit of the central bank, which is monetary policy. Okay, on the Ministry of Finance side is fiscal. So we always talked about fiscal and monetary policy alignment. But what had happened last week was just to say, you know what, the central bank in any country, in any given country, should just be heard and not seen.
Right.
So you can see the hands of the central bank in a very gradual way. Where that between 7 and 8 billion is coming from, no one exactly knows.
Should we bother to know? Does it matter that we don't know?
So those are some of the things you should ask yourself. Do you need to know where it's coming from? Because when you have such a barrage or a coterie of information coming from different lines, it's like, okay, where's the next one coming from? Where's the next tranche coming from? But I think this will bring confidence into the market, and I think it's a gradual process. It's not going to be. I'm not saying that we've reached Eureka, but
right.
I think to a large extent, things are beginning to stabilize in a gradual manner. I mean, look at the appreciation in the last 1 week. What has happened is speculators.
Yeah, a 50 naira appreciation.
That's huge.
Which is quite significant.
And of course, you know that, was it Bloomberg that said that they see it appreciating to 850 by year end? Let's see.
Let's see if we get there. Hopefully we do.
Yeah, it's a question of see you when you get there.
Exactly,
right?
see you when you get there. So on to something that's kind of related, because obviously we depend on oil for FX inflows into Nigeria. Oil prices could hit $150 a barrel. The World Bank is saying if this geopolitical tension, Israel-Hamas, continues. Realistic or a bit far-fetched? What's your take? My
take is a bit far-fetched.
Really?
Let's look at 40 years ago, during the Yom Kippur War, which is the Arab-Israeli War in 1973, if my history serves me right. Of course, don't forget those days we didn't have too many of these countries producing oil. So yes, it went up so high that you ask yourself, wow, what kind of problem are we getting ourselves into? But right now you have America, which produces oil, you have Brazil, you have Norway. So you have non-Middle Eastern countries that are producing oil. So the oil crisis we had 40 years ago is not the one we have now. I mean, no disrespect to many countries. A lot of countries now are producing oil and exporting oil. Unfortunately, let's assume that we get to $150 a barrel. Where is Nigeria in this conversation? Is the question you ask yourself. Unfortunately, we're not there. Okay, so I don't see that. So that school of thought of the World Bank, I think, is a bit too far-fetched, and I think we need to just look at it. I don't see it going beyond probably 100.
Yeah, I mean, part of it could be the World Bank being a Bretton Woods institution, development institution, also thinking about the fate of oil importing countries and the impact high energy prices having around the world in terms of suppressing demand, of course, triggering inflation. So I think there's even an economics kind of dynamic to their statement as precautionary.
Yeah, but you see, the economics must be guided by the fact that you must have a nexus.
Yes.
And that nexus is important.
Yeah.
If that nexus if there's no interconnectivity, you cannot just, divorce one from the other.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm looking at it in totality.
Yeah. I mean, what it does tell us is that the Middle East is now back as relevant to the global oil price trajectory. It might not be the only driving factor, but given what's happening there now, it's still significant. Final story today, British International Investment is pumping how many billions of dollars into the African economy. Nigeria should receive perhaps the lion's share of that. What do you make of this announcement?
No, I think it's a positive development, and I think they're going to focus areas which are important: agriculture, infrastructure, and I can't remember. I think the last one is power. I think.
Yeah.
So they're talking about committing $1 billion. So I mean, since their currency since they're British, it most likely will be £1 billion.
Yeah.
So I think they're committing about 200 million of that into the Nigerian economy, which is a lot. And of course, during the course of the week, the country director Benson Adenuga signed a deal with the
FX
commodities
exchange,
26 point something million, and are talking about opening a soya plant in Ibadan. So I think contribution to agriculture to Nigeria, very, very positive. Don't forget that this same agency has offices already in South Africa, Kenya, and I think Egypt.
Right.
So Nigeria is the fourth country. Of course, we're quite a large economy, and I think we should be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And I think people are taking us seriously right now. What is important for us is just for everyone to know that Nigeria is open for business.
And I think it's a good sign. You have a major DFI investment institution coming and putting money back and committing huge amounts of money. Hopefully others will follow into critical sectors. Fantastic. Great to speak to you, Adefeko, policy advisor and agribusiness and soft commodities expert. Hopefully you'll come back on the show.
I will come back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.